Time flies when you're having fun. We are already on to episode 2 of the KZN ANC Podcast. And for this one, we are very, very excited to be joined by the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, Premier Dube-Ncube. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you for having me.
And we're very excited to have you. We're just able to catch you today because the last 2 days have been manic. What's been going on?
Yeah, it's been a lot going on, but even leading up to this, 3 days, it's been quite an event. National Lekhutla, the president, giving us, the outline as to what are the things that we should be aligning ourselves to. Obviously, that would have started on January 8 as well of the ANC. And then we go to cabinet lekhutlas, and then we go to the provincial lekhutlas, and then it leads to the State of the Province address. And of course, we open Parliament, get opened by His Majesty the King on the first day. And then we get to then do the government part on the second day, looking at what have we done as the government led by the African National Congress. But this time around has been also different because we're not just looking at the past 5 years. We had to look at what has happened in the 30 years since democracy. And obviously we had to reflect here in KZN because while the rest of the country was barking on democracy and enjoying the transformation, KZN 1994 nearly never went for election, and there was a last minute, concessions with, the then President Mandela, and what was happening in the province, the lots of violence that was happening in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. And until 2004, when the ANC took over power in 2004, and we really began to see development happening. But even then, I reflected that even then, people forget that Parliament of KwaZulu-Natal used to be based in Ulundi. And when the ANC took over in 2004, ANC had to set up new offices, basically. But also we had to get the staff that understand something called Batopili. Yes. Putting people first, but also those people that were not going to serve just a small group of communities, group of people that had to be converted to think that South Africa, KZN, start from Mkanyagode to Mzimkulu this side, to up to Newcastle this side, and it's got people of different nations, of different religion, and all those needs must be taken care of by the government. Let alone that you had those that did not have clinics, those did not have schools, those did not have water, those did not even have electricity, And so we had to just take people through that journey to say, look, people sometimes take it for granted that we are where we are just because something just click off the finger, forgetting that we are where we are because of a lot of hard work that had to go through to be where we are. And today I was reminded that, from that time to today, we've built 300 clinics. 300 clinics that were not there before, let alone a lot of other things that were there. So it's been quite an eye-opener even to myself because it has
to go back on the journey.
Yeah, to go back to the journey. Yeah, I wasn't even there, but it forced me to go back and even go and learn and do my research, find out about a lot of these statistics, even the thing about malaria, how people were dying of malaria in KZN, how people were dying of cholera in KZN, how people were dying of disease in KZN. We're burying people because of HIV and AIDS, because of a lot of disease. But if you look at the quality of life of people today, the Gini coefficient tells you that there's been quite a huge improvement in the lives of people. Of course, people who live, in the well-to-do areas would say, Oh no, I mean, because they drive on the road, on the tar road, because they have electricity on the daily basis. But those that never saw electricity before, those that do not even today have roads, proper roads, they know what it takes, to be a step further, to really realizing that you are also a human being, somebody respect you. This is what the ANC government really had to go through.
For a young girl, and I say that respectfully, Premier, who grew up in KwaMashu, as you did yourself, born there. You're a local person. It's not like you came from another part of the province. You are very local. You know this province. What do these changes that you've mentioned mean to that young girl who grew up in KwaMashu at the time that she grew up? What do those changes mean, separate from your position in the party?
Well, I mean, if I look at myself, I mean, I was born and bred and grew up KwaMashu. I went to school KwaMashu. I had my matric emlasi, KwaShaka. And during those times, we were not allowed to go to any other schools. We were not allowed. I mean, even if my mom, of course, she was working as a domestic worker, but even if she had money, I mean, would not even go and to school in Phoenix or Newlands or anywhere else. You were only going to that school, KwaMashu. There was no alternative. And look, we are quite an exception because we made it through those dusty roads. And I mean, I was telling somebody that, I remember we used to walk kilometers from home to Ebuhle, where I went to school. I think it's about maybe 25, 30 kilometers or something.
Sure.
Whether it's raining, whether it's sunny, whether it's winter or it's summer, I'm just going to walk. All those years I was walking up and down, going to school until I finished. I mean, we never had scholar transport. Our children have got scholar transport now. Probably would have been enjoying scholar transport if it was those times. But we never had scholar transport. We had to walk because my parents could not afford money for the bus fare. So I had to walk. So the push and the drive that we had as the young people growing up in the township, seeing our parents, working hard for us, seeing our parents under a regime that was so oppressive, we had the drive to say, look, I want one day to make my mom proud. I want to build a house for my mom because I grew up KwaMashu, two-roomed house. That's where we grew up, two-roomed house, only 2 room, 2 rooms. Everything was happening there. Cooking, sleeping, eating, everything. Yeah. All my siblings, my parents, everything.
How many were you?
There's 3 of us at home. And then my mom and dad. I'm the middle one. Yeah.
Oh, middle child.
Yeah, the middle child.
That made it. Okay.
I'm the middle child.
And at that time, being the middle child, and I'm glad you told me that because middle children have got this reputation of being the ones as big sis, big brother, or the youngest, and so they usually do their own thing. At that time, being the middle child, did you ever think that you'd be the first citizen of the province?
Never.
Yeah.
Never in my wildest dream. But I think, lucky for me, I've always been this child, a very inquisitive child, who's not a conformist. I always wanted to ask questions. I always wanted to know why this, why not that. I always wanted to see alternatives in life. So I always wanted to see if I've got this, why not that one? So even at home, as much as I was the middle child, I was the one who gets sent to go to the shops.
Okay.
I was shorter as well. So I always tell this funny story that in the bus, we never used to pay when you were short, when you go into town.
Okay.
Yeah. So my mom used to send me to go and pay for ingubo that we buy at sales house and pay for the furniture, as well. So I would come to the bus because I can't reach the driver. So I would go, and then, so I got to be a clever one who gets sent, who's able to, to interact with people. But I was also very athletic. I was very athletic. I was very active child. Sports, everything, singing,
Can you
debating.
still sing? I was going to ask that question.
I can still sing.
Okay.
Yeah. I can still sing.
What is the genre that you use? Is it a gospel genre or just?
I love gospel, soul. Yeah.
Okay. I'm not going to put you on the spot today because I know it's been a busy 2 days. So next time.
Yeah.
With that inquisitive nature that you had, Premier, and going around and being forced, not forced in a bad way, but because you're out there going to do things for your family, you saw probably more than some of them did. In that, how did you then decide, from what I read about you, that you wanted to do something in the public space? By studying, public administration and all those things, you wanted to work with the public. Is that something that you wanted to study because it was available? Because I know for a long time we had very limited options for careers, especially females. Was it something that were you kind of pushed in that direction, or did it come from your excursions and from seeing what was out there that you decided that's what you want to do?
No, actually, from when I finished matric, I didn't go to university because my mom could not afford, and we didn't have NEFSAS, by the way.
Yes.
There was no NEFSAS. My mom could not afford. So I then went to do Amadoho. And when I was doing Amadoho, I then started doing courses. And while I was doing Amadoho, doing courses, I would do different things. And I happened to be, because I was active even at school, I was in the debating society.
Okay.
And so there was also this activism in us as a debating society, because you then tend to go and research because you're debating, but also I would chair debates. So I would get to then be able to comprehend what other people are saying and summarize. And so it got into me, this content and drive and the way of wanting to know more of what was happening. But also I got to interact and do some temporary jobs with the Lawyers Association. I then got to work with NADEL, National Democratic Lawyers Association, where I worked as an administrator. And there, I worked with all these judges today that are judges, lawyers, and everybody else that was there. And they were, in the main, we were, working to defend, the political activists and also people in the death row and all those kind of things that we were doing there. And that also made me to grow even more. I was very young. But I don't know, even today, I look back, I'm like, how did I find myself there at that age? I remember when I even became the mayor. I was the youngest mayor, even in South Africa. But I just found myself there, and I was just doing this thing. I don't even know what I was doing. But I did it.
You did it, yeah.
I did it, yeah. And if you look at the record as well, during those times, we used to compete even as councillors with who's got the cleanest area.
Okay.
Yeah, who's got the cleanest area, whose people are happy, as a councillor, you had to make sure that abantu bayakuthanda. And of course, yes, they're happy. Yes, because we were competing with that. You had to make sure we are abantu ukuthi bakubone ukuthi useful.
Do you think some of that good competition that you had as councillors in your areas and being the mayor is something that you still bring now when I look at what you addressed during your SOPA, your presentation? It's this drive of wanting things to work well. You said the big quote from you was clarity, transparency rather,
honesty,
transparency, and those are the main things for you. Is that something that you think still comes from that time of wanting to be you're wanting to see things work out.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. But also, I think my upbringing, a lot of leaders that I came across, they were very strict. They were very disciplined. So there was no nonsense. If you were doing nonsense, you'll be told, this is nonsense, you're not going to do it. So I grew up with that, knowing Gugulethu, nonsense is not tolerated. But also you don't have a chance to not do right, But also this thing of people saying, I don't know. You didn't have a space to, I don't know. You had to know. Yeah.
Okay.
No, you had to know. Because if you don't know, who then must know? If you don't have a solution, who must have a solution? So I had that, that push all the time that even if you were given a report to go write a report, you had to write a report, even if you don't know what's a report. Because if you don't do it, then you'll be told, then what? What are you saying? What should happen? Should we not have a report? But also, you won't make a mistake in that report, because who's going to correct your mistake? Because there's nobody else who must correct your mistake. Make sure that it's correct. Make sure that there's a solution. And it was normal. And I still have that in mind whenever I work with colleagues. I believe that don't make problems. Don't create problems. Let's solve problems. Whatever that's there, let's solve it. Of course, there will be things that are beyond our control that we can't do anything about. But in the main, let's soldier on. Let's find solutions. Let's do it.
And did you enjoy being a diplomat? It was a very strange country to be an ambassador in. You were in Prague, the Czech Republic.
Yeah.
I don't want to ask how you got there, because you say you ended up in spaces, but doing the job. How was that experience, being in Prague?
It was a great experience. It was a great experience. Even going to the diplomatic school, because you had to go to school. You've got to go to the diplomatic school first. For about 8 months, your residence at the diplomatic school.
What do they teach you, Premier?
Everything. You get taught about your country. We get taught about our provinces, and we get to visit provinces so that you know what you're marketing. We get taught about our policies. What is the government policy? You get to know about your capital, which is Pretoria. You get to know about your parliament. You get to know about everything about your country. But also you get to know about what are the issues that are sensitive in the world. Okay. Who are your partners? Who are your friends? Because that was the one complicated thing. Because you get there, there are countries that are your friends, there are countries that are not your friends. Yeah. But also, as Africa, we've got to make sure that we work as African continent. But then you would find that even amongst us as African, coming from the African continent, there's Francophone, Anglophone, which is not supposed to be like that. Yeah. There was a lot of dynamics, but I enjoyed the experience that I got there. Yeah. Really, because, to interact with so many countries, because as diplomats in resident in a country, you also get to meet as diplomats. You also got to go and meet as diplomats individually, one-on-one, as continents, as regions, regional blocks, friends, lobby as well. There's a lot of lobbying that's going on. If the United Nations is going to sit, there's an item on the agenda, there's going to be a lobby that's happening. You've got to ask your people in the capital. You'll be told, we need those countries to vote with us. Sure. We need those to be our friends. But also marketing our country was the most important part in terms of how do we make sure that our products go out to Europe, because when you're there in Europe, it's in Central Europe, and it's an hour's drive to Germany, it's an hour's drive to Austria. And we get to work around the whole of those countries. It's unlike us, With us here, you drive 5 hours to Mkanyaguti.
Oh, yes.
By that time, I'm sure you'll be in different countries in Europe already. But it was quite a very eye-opening experience, I must say, and it really made me learn a lot about the global dynamics and the geopolitics as well.
And do you think that's put you in a good stead for the current? I mean, obviously, when you got back, you were still MEC, ETIA, and COPTA. That's in itself, those two positions are quite a lot in finance as well. But now this position that you find yourself in, it seems like you keep going for the heavy lifting positions where you're a first in that position, and of course, being the first woman as Premier of KZN, it's a big deal. And it comes with a lot of, I'm sure, challenges. It's KZN, so there are those dynamics of how do people value and view women. That's, I'm sure, you've had to address in your time. How has that been? Were you a little bit intimidated, or was it just, let's go for it?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about first. Yeah, I've been in a lot of firsts.
You've been in a lot.
Been in a lot of firsts. I mean, even as a diplomat, by the way, I was at first there because there was this thing about me, getting pregnant, going to have a baby. There's a policy that says, as a diplomat, you can't be away from your country of residence for more than a month.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there's never been a diplomat that gets a baby, so they don't have maternity leave or anything like that. Because diplomats have got wives. I don't have a wife. and so we had to, I had Phoebe and other colleagues, other comrades who were also ambassadors at the time. There was a lot of group of us. We had to start to say to government,
maternity.
We need a policy.
Yeah.
To say, we young people now coming into the diplomatic, environment, we need policies to cater for young people, So, moving to the other first office, in the Premier's office, it hasn't been easy. I must be honest with you. It hasn't been easy. Patriarchy is at its hardest when you are faced with it on your eyes every day, not G.
Yeah.
Every day. And for you to having to work in an environment where you've got to prove, even to the person who doesn't know what you must prove, that this is the good thing for us to do. I was lucky that when I worked at COPTA, I worked a lot with the king, the previous king, Ndlovu. And I learned a lot from him. I really learned a lot from him. I also learned to understand that ngesiZulu, abantu besifazane bahlonishwa more than anything else.
As it should be.
Yes. I got to learn that from him, how he respected me, ngumntwana ngingalutho, and ngisebenza namakhosi, how amakhosi respected me, how I respected them and I valued them the way bang respecting akhona. But turn things around and get to the position where you are supposed to be commanding respect and natural, cordial relations with almost everybody in the sector. That at all times you've got to say, look, I'm not here to impose myself. I'm not here to dictate, but I'm here to work with everybody. I'm here to make sure that we all succeed. You go out to the society, people still look at you as this young girl, Wakamashu. And of course, I'm not a strict person. I'm not a rigid person. I'm fine. I'm not a protocol person, but there is a certain level of respect and understanding that we're also supposed to have sometimes. So it's been quite an eye-opening experience, because when you talk to women and you say women must assert themselves, women must be able to rise above and you must be strong. And when you're faced with that kind of situation, to say, okay, By the way, I stand in the podium all the time and say, okay, this is what I say. Now you feel it.
Now you've got to apply it to yourself.
Now you've got to apply it to yourself first, So so it's really had made me to even understand the gender, issues even better than how you would understand them, from, women and men perspective. But if you are to really look at it in terms of practicality now, the dynamics, then you understand that this way of making us socialize our children, the way the communities and our society are socializing, there's a lot that needs to change if we are to break the cycle of the gender-based violence.
Oh, yes. But do you think, just going back to the position itself of being the premier and these challenges that we've discussed around gender and having to negotiate and navigate that space, do you think it's an added burden to your premiership, if it's called premiership? That sounds like soccer. But to your position as premier, is it now an added burden that you have to have this extra negotiation and ducking and diving and trying to keep, everything in its place? Is it an extra burden for you? And
it is.
Yeah,
it is. It is an extra burden, because if we were to come in at the door, sit down, don't look at me whether I'm Nomusa or I'm a locust, or I'm Sipo.
Yeah.
Let's work. Don't judge ukuthi ngigqoke ini, ungibheke ukuthi ngimnyama, ngizoreacta kanjani, uzongiphusha kanjani, and how will I react? So that kind of it takes a lot, because instead of moving on with things that you've got to do, you've got to try and take a step back all the time and be accommodative and try and negotiate. Of course, I love to work as a team. I believe in teamwork. I believe in each one's capacity if we are to do something. I don't believe that one person can succeed. That's my 100% belief, that there's no one person who's been gifted in a way that makes you as an individual be 100% person. But it's a combination of all the interactions. It's a combination of all other contributions from other people that makes us grow as a people. And that, for me, has been something that's interacting with a lot of young people, particularly young girls, who've looked at me and said, wow, okay, it means that we have a future. It made me, tell the young people that, look, really the ANC minute when the ANC says we want a non-racial, non-sexist, South Africa, because it's opening the doors that would not have opened for women to come and occupy such positions. But it also meant that the ANC itself needs to internalize what the ANC policy is saying to realize this. And when I say to young people, it doesn't just happen because the ANC likes it, but it's because the ANC's policy, the Freedom Charter and everything in the DNA of the ANC, it says this. And I always say, if other political parties would tell you about how they're approaching issues of development, how they're approaching the issues of transformation, first go and look at their policies. Go and look at their policies, whether their policies are actually saying those things that they are talking about when they're campaigning. Because then you'll realize that they're actually calling it a bluff. Because if it's not in the policy, it can't happen. Even if they can bluff you about it, you must know that they're lying, because it's not going to happen. But in the ANC, it has to happen because it's in the policy of the ANC. It's in the DNA of the ANC that things must happen in this way. People must get better life. People must get better health. People must get better housing. There must be better wages. There must be jobs for people. There must be growth in the economy. And people must be able to have the economy in their own hands. It's in the DNA of the ANC. That things must happen that way. So for us who are given the responsibility is to take that ANC policy and make it a practical, actionable program so that it realized what the ANC says in its policies.
With having just delivered the SOPA, Madam Premier, one of the things that makes this year very different is that, first of all, it is an election year. There is 30 years of democracy behind us. There are so many things at play this year that are going to contribute to a lot of things. Is it difficult, first of all, to balance all those many facets? I mean, to not be overtly electioneering during an election year as you deliver the state of the province, while also trying to look at how far you've come since the last state of the province, which was last year. All of those things. I mean, it's a lot to try and juggle and maintain. Which of those has been the biggest challenge in trying to bring it all into sort of the same plate? Which part is the most elusive and challenging for you as the Premier?
I was saying to the people during the debate today that it's very rich for people to say it was an electioneering SOPA, for instance. But when they debate, they say the ANC has done nothing. The ANC government has done nothing. But you're saying I'm electioneering, but you're also saying I've done nothing. Which is it? Which is it? I'm in this office because the ANC, through its manifesto that the government, the president of the ANC presented in the previous elections, which manifesto the president of the ANC presented at Moses Mabhida, it's the very same policies that we're supposed to implement as the ANC people. Now, you can't tell me that I'm electioneering. Of course, I'm implementing the ANC policy. That's why I'm here. I was put in this position by the ANC. I wasn't put by, paperless without color. It's black, green, and gold. So I don't know when should I say I'm not electioneering or when, because everything that I've done it because the ANC policies say this is what we must do. We've created jobs, and we've created more than 600,000 jobs. And because the ANC said we will create decent jobs, we will create jobs. We've had to go and get investors to come and invest because the ANC said, the president said in his presidential investment conferences, they wanted to raise more than $1 trillion of investors to come and invest in South Africa. And part of those billions came to KZN. And I have to say, because the president has even overachieved his own, targets, this is what we have achieved because of the president's drive. I can't, when will I lie about that? Because that's what the president has achieved. And he's the ANC president. But that's what he had said he was going to do. Now he's doing it. Now, why should we not say that it's happened? I mean, I was talking about, priority 2 that talks about the president when he was delivering the manifesto, priority 2, which is the economic transformation and job creation. When we say these are the kind of jobs that now moving forward through Istesha Waya that we're doing. And then people saying, oh, no, you're not going to do that. But I'm giving them numbers that these are the jobs we've created last year. Since the last time we launched Ustesha Waya, nansi msebenzi. And I even brought people laphayana isopa ukuthi babonakale bathinte ngezandla babone ukuthi cha bakhona ngempela labantu hayi ukuthi into engekho. But also moving forward, when we say we're going to be creating jobs in this area, judge me by saying, is there a budget for it? Yes, there is budget for it. Is there a plan for it? Yes, there's a plan for it. Where is it going to happen? It's going to happen in this area, in this area, in this area. Why is it happening? Because the ANC in its manifesto said it will create those jobs. It will create decent jobs. It will do the reskilling. It will make sure that young people are supported in their businesses so that they can create their own economies. It's the ANC that said that in their manifesto. We must implement that manifesto. Otherwise, they would say we lied. In the manifesto, if we're not doing that. So really, I don't get it when people say it's an electioneering. I was saying to somebody that they were saying, why are people now coming to communities because it's election time? And I said, no, we're not coming because it's election time. By the way, Tina, here in KZN, we have something called Operation Suguma Sakhe. And every month, without fail, we are in each district. The previous month, Beselembe district, the other month, Besekinqetshwayo, the previous month, Beskanongoma, previous month, Beseheri Gwala district. And when we are there in that district, all MECs, they go to all wards. And in each ward, we go and see ukuthi umsebenzi ukhona kuyenzeka ama-project akhona lawo esithe sizowenza, which department is not delivering services, yiziphi izinto that people are not happy with, what can we correct, what needs to be fixed, what needs to be corrected. And we do that every month. But over and above that, we have Izimbizo. We have MECs going to communities almost every day to go and work with the communities. Of course, there will be those political parties that have not been to communities for the past 5 years. Baza manje because it's campaigning time. That's a different. Tina, we've always been there. But we've always been there because it's what the ANC said. The ANC said in its manifesto, we will stay with the people. We will work with the communities where we reside. We will make sure that we listen to the people. That's what we're doing. We go out and we listen to the people. We come back and we implement what people said that we must implement. And really, it's something that we need people to understand that it's a balancing act that we have to do.
I hear the passion coming from you, Madam Premier. Your many firsts, we go back to that. You have admitted that you are somebody who is a pioneer, if we can use that word. If you had to tell somebody your legacy and explain to them what it is, how would you describe it in a few words?
My legacy? I think it's to work hard. Always strive for doing something perfect. Always strive for making sure that you do some changes in the lives of the people. Always make sure that, like now, we said we wanted KZN to be a smart province, digitization. The whole world is moving towards the fifth industrial revolution. We're talking fourth industrial revolution. And we said we wanted to make sure that KZN is digitized, but also our communities get access to Wi-Fi, to connectivity. And we're really going all out as a province to make sure that that is happening. Our libraries are now digitized. Sometimes ubona ngisho abantu abadala bemi efensini umangala ukuthi bameleni laba abantu abadala bemecingweni kanti wande ukuthi baku Wi-Fi lapha basuke bekhona. Or even young people, you see sometimes bahleli bebaningi and you wonder ukuthi hayi basuke beku Wi-Fi. And you see the impact of such initiatives are making in the lives of the people. But also, this Wi-Fi is not just to get a recipe for cooking or to ask umzala ukuthi but it's to go and Google how to make a material, Google how to plan a business plan, how to trade with another country. What are the most 10 wanted jobs in the industry? I was telling young people, you say you are unemployed graduates. And of course you are going to be an unemployed graduate because we go and learn something that is not needed by the market. The market is telling us every day, you go Google it now as a young person. The market is saying, these are the jobs we want. Logistics, IT, technology, the tech industry, the aero industry, aerospace, and all of those things. That's what the industry wants. And you go and like I'll go and do public administration. Industry doesn't want public administrators. They want they want people who are going to do digital analytics. They want people who are going to do coding and robotics. That people that can trade with other countries in the world. You can trade with Kenya, uhlele ekhaya wenze imali as a young person. You don't even need to go to university to learn how to drive a drone, to be a drone pilot. And those are the things that we're trying to champion now to say, look, if we are to create entrepreneurs, if we are to create lots and lots of jobs, ezingekho, millions of jobs, by the way, ezingakabi khona, let's get into the technology space, because that's where the whole world is moving towards.
Thank you very much, Madam Premier.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for watching, and thank you for joining us. This podcast is available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. We're also available on all the social media platforms. That is Instagram, X, as well as the other one I can't think of. Take care, and we'll see you next time.